Hello, and welcome to our parent chat for today on making bedtime bearable. So, bedtime can be a really tough transition time for families, especially if you have multiple children. So, I put together just some strategies that I think really help kind of set that good bedtime routine and help families during this difficult time. So, the first thing we like to do is to talk about um, setting a bedtime that's developmentally appropriate. And so there are some recommendations on how much sleep each age group needs. And so if you find your child on this list here by their age, and you calculate how many naps they get during the day, it'll tell you really then how much sleep they're going to need to get at night. And so once you calculate that, you want to make sure that your child's total falls into how much the range of how much sleep they need during their age. Now, some adjustments might need to be made if children seem really tired or we're noticing a lot of behaviors that you think stem from the fact that they don't get enough sleep. So this is really based on your family and making sure that your child is getting enough sleep and basing the bedtime on your family's schedule. So if a family has to get up really early in the morning to take children to daycare and things like that, we're going to need to make sure that their bedtime starts pretty early. And so and vice versa, if you're a family that does not have to get your children up super early, then their bedtime can be a little later at night. So making sure that you are, looking at the guidelines, where your children fall, and finding out what's the best recommendation for your family. So once you decide what time their bedtime is going to be, we want to set a bedtime routine. And a bedtime routine is really all about helping them transition from active time to sleep. And so we want to give them that little transition time to help them get their bodies ready to lay down and rest. And so routines, we know any routine help children feel safe, and they set an expectation of what bedtime is going to look like and how it's going to make them feel. So it's important that it really, a lot of these things talk about self-care as well. Taking a bath and brushing your teeth and making sure you're, using the potty and taking care of all of the things that we need to do before they get ready to rest their bodies. Once that routine is set, we want to make sure that you start the routine in enough time that your child is in bed and ready for sleep, number 8, at the desired bedtime. So if you say, my child's going to go to bed at 8 o'clock, then you need to set the bedtime routine to start at like 7:30 or maybe even earlier if they're a child who likes to spend a lot of time taking a bath or a lot of time reading books. So we want to kind of look at these things and find the appropriate time that we start the bedtime routine. It gives them and their bodies that transition time, and that's super, super important. So a lot of times people will say, well, my kid's really going to balk at that routine because they like to help, decide those things. And that's fine. You can set the routine and then give them choices within that routine that's going to help them and help them get a little ownership of this transition time. So you can say, would you like to skip or walk to go take our bath? But it's time for bath time now. And would you like to wear your green pajamas or would you like to wear the blue ones tonight? And so we're going to engage them in these choices and in this transition time to help them prepare their bodies for rest. We also want to set a relaxing environment. So when we're out in the living room with the rest of the family, it's louder, the lights are on. We want to start setting that mood for sleep. So we want to make sure that we provide a night light or something a little dimmer for the child. A soft music or noise machine. I included one here that you can find on Amazon, but there's lots of different ones. As you see, this nightlight is really cute. It provides a nice dim light, but it also puts stars up on the ceiling and moons and planets. And there's just all kinds of different things that you can find that your child's really gonna like. They can help pick some of this stuff out as well. So when it's time for bedtime, they feel like it's their own, and this is part of the routine to kind of get their bodies ready. No TV or pads are recommended for at least 30 minutes before bedtime. So part of that bedtime routine is going to take that out anyway. So if you start your bedtime routine at 7:30 in hopes that they're in bed at 8 o'clock, that whole bedtime routine should not include any TV or pad time. So we want to make sure that anything we are doing with them, reading books, those types of things, aren't including on, a TV or on a pad. It really has to do with like their brain development, and their brain needs that transition time as well to go from being stimulated to rest. We also want to make sure we have the appropriate bedding for the temperature and the child. So sometimes we have multiple children, and sometimes kiddos, we have some that like lots of blankets, and sometimes we have kiddos who don't want any blankets. So we want to make sure that we're providing the appropriate bedding for that child. And so knowing your child, if they're really run on the hot side, that we are providing limited blankets, because we don't want them to get sweaty and we don't want them to be too cold, but we want to make sure it's appropriate for them. And the last thing is a cuddle toy. So a lot of times kiddos want to sleep with a baby doll or a stuffed animal. And that is really okay for them. It helps them transition into good sleep, and it helps them feel safe and secure until they can wake up and be with you again. Some children might need help relaxing their bodies. So for some kiddos, it's really a hard transition. They have a hard time getting that body to calm down enough to go to sleep. And so it can be a lot of work sometimes for certain kiddos, because they just need that help to kind of regulate their bodies a little bit. They might need you to pat them on the back. As infants, children often are patted on the back to go to sleep. And so sometimes that needs to occur for them to calm their bodies down. They might need you just to kind of rub their back a little bit, using a nice soft voice, a nice soft touch, just to kind of help them calm their bodies a little bit. We can also talk to them and co-regulate with them, some nice deep, slow breathing to help slow things down a little bit. Sometimes they might ask you to lay down with them for a couple minutes, and that just really helps makes them feel safe and secure until they are calm enough to go to sleep on their own. And even tucking them in and kind of getting into that routine of pulling the blankets up and making sure they have everything that they need and that they're nice and comfortable, and that you can kiss them goodnight and see them in the morning. And so some children have sleep issues. And if your child has a hard time falling asleep or staying asleep, we want you to talk to your doctor. Sleep is so important for kiddos. Their brains are rapidly growing, and their bodies are rapidly growing, and they need lots of sleep, as you saw in that sleep chart at the beginning. And so if they're not getting that, it can really affect them and you as well. So if they're not able to sleep, and you've tried all the things that we've talked about today and got that good routine going, and you're really helping them with that transition time, and they're not getting a pad or a TV to help them sleep, then there's something going on. And we need to talk to your doctor about it. There are some things that doctors can do and can recommend, but we want to make sure that they're ruling out any medical issues. And sometimes they're on other medications. So we just want to make sure that that medicine isn't causing them sleep problems and that the doctor's aware of these things so you can try to work out some of those things on your own. So it's really important that if your child's having those, talk to your pediatrician and see if there's anything that you all feel comfortable with that you can try. So the resources for today's slideshow, I put my email address on here again. If you have any questions or concerns, please email me. I also put some stuff on here from WebMD, an article that's called Make Your Kids Bedtime Battle Free. Some stuff from Conscious Discipline, and the Devereaux Center for Resilient Children has lots of evidence-based strategies on here as well. So thank you so much for joining us. I hope you found this resource helpful, and I will see you next time.